West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
If you thought the last 2 hours were feisty, wait till you get to this hour. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. It's 8 a.m. on this Monday, July 21st, 2025. Now we're going to dive into Tulsi Gabbard and what she's discovering about Barack Obama. And should he be brought before the DOJ for potential charges related to treason, the undermining of the Trump presidency with false allegations? Tulsi Gabbard has some strong words. She calls this a treasonous conspiracy by officials at the highest levels of the Obama White House to subvert the will of the American people and to try to usurp the president from fulfilling his mandate. The betrayal concerns every American. The integrity of our democratic republic demands that every person involved be investigated and brought to justice to prevent this from ever happening again. Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, providing all documents to the Department of Justice to deliver accountability that President Trump, his family, and the American people deserve. Is Barack Obama a traitor? Is James Clapper a traitor? Is James Comey a traitor? We're going to get to this and more this hour. I want to hear from you. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Hey, good Monday morning. It's 73, gorgeous outside in Denver and up and down the Front Range in Colorado, expecting a high of 94 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
No one, especially the president, is above the law.
So good to know that Barry understands that, because Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, says he orchestrated a coup in 2016, which is treason with the Russia hoax.
But there's no question in my mind that this intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered be published, which contained a manufactured intelligence document. It's worse than even politicization of intelligence. It was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people. So yes, next week we will be releasing more detailed information about how exactly this took place and the extent to which this information was sought to be hidden from the American people, hidden from officials who would be in a position to do something about it. And that's really.
And as we know, a wolf in sheep's clothing, long time coming. Speaking of wolves, Greg Lopez, who's running for governor, on with Jeff and Billy last hour, and says we have a wolf problem in the state, and we need to take a deep breath to figure out our next step forward in the high country.
One is basically just to reaffirm the importance of following the management plan and do not violate it. I'm hopeful that they will do that. And I'm also hopeful that they will just put a pause, because there's no deadline as to how quickly bring in 50 wolves into Colorado with the hope of having over 200 wolves in the next 3 to 5 years.
Denver Mayor Johnston delivers his State of the City address today. The speech will be held at 6 o'clock tonight in the Seawell Ballroom of the Denver City for the Performing Arts. A 12-year-old boy is dead after Aurora police say a distracted driver hit him on his scooter. Russell Anderson, who's lived in the community for nearly 50 years, says many in the area have been worried about careless driving and want to see more enforcement efforts.
In the last 5 years, it seems like there's just a lot more people who are in a lot bigger hurry. And I don't know why. It's just gotten too bad. It's just absolutely crazy.
The boy was riding his scooter in a crosswalk on East Iliff near South Wheel Park Circle over the weekend. Investigators say the 19-year-old driver wasn't paying attention to the crosswalk signals and failed to stop. David Reich with the National Road Safety Foundation says there are resources available to guide parents in important talks about safe driving practices with their kids.
We have something called the Passport to Safe Driving, which helps parents talk to their kids. It's got a lot of good talking points, ways to have that discussion about being a safe and careful driver.
All right, Jason Crow, the lefty, says he won't let the administration deter him after he was denied entry into the ICE detention facility in Aurora. He says it's a violation of federal law preventing him from entering and that he's regularly conducted oversight there. He added the 47 administration has tried to intimidate other members of Congress from doing their jobs, and he'll work to hold the White House accountable. The brother of late NFL star and fallen Army Ranger Pat Tillman is facing charges after he crashed his car into a San Jose, California post office. USPS officials say Richard Tillman drove into the Almaden Valley post office early Sunday morning, triggering an explosion that caused the post office to go up in flames. Authorities believe Tillman drove in to the post office intentionally. All right, the Twins over the Rockies on Sunday, 7-1. The Cardinals in town tonight at 6:40, first pitch.
And Scotty Scheffler has his Open Championship and the third leg of golf's Grand Slam.
Just incredible. Scotty Scheffler continues to do what he does best, dominate and win golf tournaments. Wins the British Open, 3 under 68, his fourth career major. 70 in Castle Rock, 72 in Aurora, 73 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Typical weather for this time of year. Warm temperatures, mostly sunny to partly sunny skies, and occasionally some thunderstorms. Will be low to mid-90s today, 60s tonight, and low to mid-90s Tuesday. Widely scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms today. A few more thunderstorms Tuesday. Very good chances of showers and thunderstorms Wednesday. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691 or visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Is Barack Obama treasonous? Some of the words coming from Tulsi Gabbard. That's how I read it. Here's the tweet that is earth-shattering. Came Friday. Americans will finally learn the truth about how the 2016 election, how in 2016, intelligence was politicized and weaponized by the most powerful people in the Obama administration to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Donald Trump, subverting the will of the American people and undermining our democratic republic. She lays it out. A series of tweets. For months preceding the 2016 election, the intelligence community shared a consensus view. Russia lacked the intent and capability to hack the U.S. elections. But weeks after President Trump's historic 2016 victory, defeating Hillary Clinton, everything changed. So here's some of the dates. The dates really matter in this, okay? August 31st, DHS official to the head of the Defense Intelligence Agencies, James Clapper, at the time. We are working with CIA on a PDP, that's a presidential daily briefing, submission on the threat from Russia. The thrust of the analysis is that there is no indication of a Russian threat to directly manipulate the actual vote count through cyber means. However, as seen in recent media reporting, any cyber activity directed against the election infrastructure is likely to have an effect on public confidence, even if the cyber operation is unsuccessful or not intended to impact the election. So, DHS official James Clapper, we're working on a presidential daily briefing submission on the threat. The thrust of the analysis is that there is no indication of a Russian threat to directly manipulate the actual vote count through cyber means. That's because the voting machines aren't connected to the internet, not supposed to be connected to the internet. Heidi Ganahl has found otherwise in some capacities. But I digress. September 9th, so that's August 31st. This is now September 9th. Lead author of the presidential daily briefing. I took the intent of this email to get the basic starting point regarding Russia. We agree with this. Russia probably is not and will not trying to influence the election by using cyber means to manipulate computer-enabled election infrastructure. Okay? Lead author, presidential daily briefing. Then December 7th. So now we're after the election. So August 31st, September 9th, now December 7th. DNI Clapper talking points. We assess that foreign adversaries did not use cyber attacks on election infrastructure to alter the U.S. presidential election outcome this year. We have no evidence of cyber manipulation of election infrastructure intended to alter results. So, intelligence communities have all come together and said that with regards to the 2016 election, there was no manipulating of the results. Russia couldn't get in, actually change the results of the 2016 election. Okay? Then, so that's December 7th. The next day, Tulsi Gabbard points this out. On December 8th, 2016, IC officials prepared an assessment for the president's daily brief, finding that Russia did not impact recent U.S. election results by conducting cyber attacks on the infrastructure. But before it could reach the president, it was abruptly pulled based on, quote, new guidance, unquote. This key intelligence assessment was never published. So, December 8th, intelligence community officials discuss a draft presidential daily briefing. And they write this: we assess that Russia and criminal actors did not impact recent U.S. election results by conducting malicious cyber activities against election infrastructure. Then an email later that day, all based on some new guidance. We are going to push back publication of the presidential daily briefing. It will not run tomorrow and is not likely to run until next week. Okay? The next day, top security officials, top national security officials, including FBI Director James Comey, CIA Director John Brennan, and DNI James Clapper gathered at the Obama White House to discuss Russia. Obama directed the intelligence community to create a new intelligence assessment that detailed Russian election meddling, even though it would contradict multiple intelligence assessments released over the previous several months. And I just read that. They did not access the election and the election equipment and be able to alter the results. So there's a meeting that takes place December 9th. So we're at December 7th, December 8th, now December 9th. December 9th, the meeting was titled Summary of Conclusions for Meetings on a Sensitive Topic. And it includes Susan Rice, as I mentioned. It includes James Comey. It includes John Brennan. It includes James Clapper. And then this is an email that comes from that meeting. The intelligence community is prepared to produce an assessment per the president's request that pulls together the information we have on the tools Moscow used and the actions it took to influence the 2016 election. An explanation on why Moscow directed these activities and how Moscow's approach has changed over time, going back to 2008, 2012 as reference points. The Office of National Intelligence will lead the effort with participation from the CIA, FBI, NSA, and DHS. So they get all these reports that, look, Russia tried to hack, wasn't able to affect the election. And then on December 9th, they have this meeting. Email goes out. Oh, no, now we're going to put together an entire report on the tools Moscow used to influence the 2016 elections. Tulsi Gabbard then points out, Obama officials immediately leaned on their allies in the media to advance these falsehoods. Okay? Anonymous IC sources, intelligence community sources, leaked classified information to the Washington Post and others that Russia had intervened to hack the election in Trump's favor. Here's articles that day coming from the Washington Post. Though Russia has long conducted cyber spying on U.S. agencies, companies, and organizations, this presidential campaign marks the first time Russia has attempted through cyber means to interfere in, if not actively influence, the outcome of an election, the official said. Now remember, they knew days prior to this from their own assessment that Russia had not actually changed anything with regards to the election, none of the vote tabulation, okay? Still, they're leaking information to the press. The CIA has concluded in a secret assessment that Russia intervened in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump win the presidency rather than just undermine confidence in the U.S. elections, according to officials briefed on the matter. And then 5 days later, NBC News, U.S. intelligence officials now believe with a, quote, high level of confidence, unquote, that Russian President Vladimir Putin became personally involved in the covert Russian campaign to interfere with the U.S. presidential election, senior U.S. intelligence officials have told NBC. Tulsi Gabbard then points out, on January 6th, just days before President Trump took office, DNI Clapper unveiled the Obama-directed political assessment, a gross weaponization of intelligence that laid the groundwork for a years-long coup intended to subvert President Trump's entire presidency. According to whistleblower emails shared with us today, and she mentioned this over the weekend, that they're now getting more and more information from whistleblowers coming from within these intelligence agencies. We know Clapper and Brennan used the baseless, discredited Steele dossier as a source to push this false narrative in the intelligence assessment. So this email to what's called the election group. Shelby believes this should be responsible to by the NIC, as the dossier was a factor in the 2017 ICA on the election interference in which an assessment of the document was added as an annex. So not only are they going against what their own intelligence community has said with regards to the 2016 election and whether or not Russia was actually able to hack it and change the voting results, but now they're using the Steele dossier as the basis for believing that Donald Trump was compromised by Russian assets. And this all became part of the Russia collusion arguments in 2017, including going after Carter Page, including some of the investigations that were called for by the Democrats. Tulsi Gabbard continues. These documents detail a treasonous conspiracy by officials at the highest level of the Obama White House to subvert the will of the American people and try to usurp the president from fulfilling his mandate. This betrayal concerns every American. The integrity of our democratic republic demands that every person involved be investigated and brought to justice to prevent this from ever happening again. I'm providing all documents to the Department of Justice to deliver the accountability that President Trump, his family, and the American people deserve. So essentially, the whole argument was that Barack Obama and heads of the intelligence agencies, from James Clapper to James Comey and others, knew that Russia didn't influence the election, adjusted the vote numbers, okay? And then utilized a fake dossier to generate controversy that Donald Trump was a paid Russian asset or a compromised Russian asset, and that as a result, investigations need to be done. It became the basis for some of the FISA warrants against people like Carter Page, and that it was all drummed up in an effort to sabotage the first few years of Donald Trump's presidency, hence threatening the integrity of our democratic republic by using and weaponizing our intelligence agencies to go after political opponents. Bill, in light of all this, your thoughts on this controversy?
I can't figure out where the controversy is, with all respect. I can't figure out for the life of me whether or not Tulsi Gabbard is intentionally being obtuse or thinks that the American voter is this obtuse. This is weird because I hear in all of that, in all those texts and all the information there from Tulsi, I hear nothing new. I hear nothing that's a scandal. I hear nothing that anyone paying attention to the Mueller report and everything around that didn't already know. I don't understand why this is a scandal, because there's something very important in this, is that it was never postulated through the Mueller report or anywhere that I'm afraid of that had credibility behind it, that Russia hacked the machines. There is lots of credible reports and intelligence behind Russia having influence campaigns, bots, creating online profiles, doing social media influence campaigns in certain areas of the country. That's backed up by a large number of intelligence officials. That's influence. That's not hacking the election. What I'm hearing is that Tulsi Gabbard came out and told us something that we already knew. Russia did not, and it never has been the case, nor the allegation, that Russia hacked the 2016 election. There's never been that claim outside of a handful of people that had angry feelings the 48 hours past the election. There's nothing credible that went on. There were people that were moaning, complaining about it 48 hours after the election, but there was nothing credible that went forward based on a hacking or manipulation of the machines. That's never part of it. Not part of the Mueller report. None of that about them hacking a machine. Do they talk about an influence campaign? Yes. And that's exactly what Obama's administration did. Let's look at their influence campaign and how have their tactics evolved and changed. That seems reasonable. I can't figure out if Tulsi is being, is unintelligent enough to not know the difference, or she thinks that the voters are unintelligent enough to not know the difference. How in the hell is this treason? This is ridiculous. This is, again, we start with not manipulating the election based on hacking. And then we're mad when Barack Obama comes out and talks about influence, and it's not related to hacking. They looked at it. And before we sit here and scream and yell, the other thing I'm going to put on the table then is, explain to me the Durham report. Explain that one to me. If this is what Tulsi has, explain to me the Durham report. It's not what he found. And he went looking at the origins of the Russian hoax. That was his purview. And he found bupkis.
Bupkis?
Nothing. Yeah. He found nothing. He found
Bill,
nothing. There were 34 indictments coming from the Mueller report. There were, 2 that came out of Durham, only one of which he filed, and he failed on that ground? That person was found not guilty? He found nothing. So show me how is a Durham report? Tell me that. Square the Durham report with what Tulsi Gabbard is saying right now. Explain that one to me.
The effort was made by progressives utilizing a fake dossier called the Steele dossier, right? That was put together by an opponent to Donald Trump, put together by Democrats.
No, originally Republicans. Be fair about that.
Fake.
That was Fusion GPS was originally contracted by a Republican organization. It was a Republican organization that was working with Rubio that originally started Fusion GPS and the Steele dossier. When Rubio was dropping out, they shopped it, and Hillary Clinton picked it up. She is not the genesis of that. So it's not. Hang on, but it's not started by Democrats. That's important.
But did it go anywhere with the Republicans? Was it released? Was it released to the media? Was it sent to the FBI? Any of that stuff?
No.
Okay, so at that point, it was just Oppo research.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, didn't
Hillary
start
Clinton.
with the Dems. Just make sure. That's important. To say the Democrats went out and created this, they didn't. A Republican started to create this, and
started.
Started.
Okay.
Yes. And then and Hillary filled it
Clinton
in. Yeah, absolutely. And that's fair. That is fair.
Okay. So this thing was produced by campaign opponents.
Yes.
Ultimately produced, though, and funded, at least this is what this article is telling me, by the Clinton campaign and the DNC.
Yeah, they paid majority of the bills. Yeah,
okay,
that makes sense.
So you have this dossier that is just full of crazy stuff. I mean, unsubstantiated.
But it's not 100% false. There is just enough in there that's true to make it believable, and that's how you push fakes. You don't come out there and say an entire story that's totally untrue.
Correct.
You have pieces. So pieces of it were absolutely true, but the more salacious and crazy things weren't.
But that Donald Trump was compromised with information from Russia.
The more salacious and crazy things were not true.
Right. Well,
that's exactly what I'm agreeing.
Yeah, the prostitution stuff, all that. That's the salation stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but even the fact that he's an asset.
Right.
No.
That becomes the juxt of the situation here. That becomes the center point of it, because
not necessarily.
What Hillary Clinton and the others are arguing is that Donald Trump is a compromised Russian asset.
Yeah.
And that's not true. And then from that becomes this big effort to get FISA warrants to spy on Donald Trump's campaign.
Not necessarily accurate, 100% there. There are pieces of it that come out of the Steele dossier. But remember, one of those investigations and one of those reports is because someone connected to the Trump campaign, whose name I forget right now.
Paul Manafort?
No. Opened his big mouth at a cocktail party and bragged about conversations they were having with Russian intelligence. That's where some of those started. Dude had loose lips at a cocktail party, and that was reported. So that's part of it as well. It's not totally based on the Steele dossier.
Enough, though, to bring about the power of the FBI, the CIA, and the national intelligence infrastructure to spy on Donald Trump's campaign.
Because he was talking to Russia.
Who was?
Parts of his campaign. That was proven.
But there was no effort to bring about a collusion effort to win.
That's because they couldn't figure out the collusion. They didn't rise to conclusion, but did they coordinate and did they talk? Yeah, they absolutely did. But did they rise to the legal definition of collusion? No, and that's fair. But it's not as if they didn't talk.
To bring about spying from the intelligence agencies upon this campaign.
Yes.
No!
Yes, it is. You know why?
You have no
Here's
evidence
the reason.
because the evidence you've used is totally fake.
No, that's wrong. That is wrong. Here's the reason, and this is the problem. This is what everybody in MAGA gets incorrect. Okay? These warrants and looking into this wasn't about, oh my God, Donald Trump's dirty. Donald Trump's dirty. Let's get him. There were people involved in the investigation that had those feelings. That was not the purpose of the investigation. The purpose of the investigation was, what in the hell is Russia doing? That was the thrust. The thrust was, how is Russia trying to influence the election? It had very little. Whose candidacy it was necessarily irrelevant. There are people involved in the investigation that did want to get Trump, but that wasn't the thrust. It didn't come out and go, we now can get Trump. The question was, how is Russia working to influence the election? That's
by
the question.
December 7th, the intelligence community knew that it had no direct impact on changing the election.
That's hacking machines.
December 7th, it knew that.
That's different than influencing. That's different. Hacking is different than influencing. They're two different actions. Hacking into the machines is what Donald Trump alleged happened in 2020. The influence campaigns are when you get people that may or may not be faithful actors going into communities and using social media and other things in order to create narratives that may not be there. That's the influence campaign. That's what they were concerned about. They admitted no hacking. No one came out. Even
Bill,
Obama said no hacking of the election.
They didn't.
Yes, he did.
They hid it. They had it in the presidential daily briefing, and Tulsi Gabbard has this as evidence.
The administration never claimed it was hacked.
Specifically removed.
Wrong administration. The Trump administration claimed it was hacked.
No,
the Obama administration never claimed the election was hacked.
Look at her emails. She lays this out. They knew December 7th and 8th that there was no hacking, and it was specifically removed.
Show me where in her thread she says the Obama administration came out and said the election was hacked. Show me where in her thread the affirmative case was made by the Obama administration. That's where this entire BS that she's floating falls apart, because the Obama administration never came out and says machines hacked. That's the Trump administration.
Because they couldn't prove it.
Okay, they didn't say it because they couldn't prove it because it wasn't real. So what's the scandal? Please tell me what the scandal is. They didn't say something that wasn't true.
The United States had direct evidence. No, let me explain.
Oh my God.
The President of the United States had direct evidence.
It's something that didn't happen.
And reports from his own intelligence agency that Russia could not directly impact the vote count on the elections. Okay?
Not hack the machine.
Then they hid it. And what did they do? Then they took a fake. Yes, they did. They didn't say it. They never said it. They could.
Where did they say the machines were hacked? Because that's where you're hiding it.
No.
Where did they say the machines were hacked?
They hid it.
Where?
By pivoting.
Where did they say the machines were hacked?
And taking a false dossier that was put together by a political opponent as the justification for the argument that Donald Trump was a Russian agent and ran around for a year and a half yelling collusion, collusion, collusion. You have all this.
The Steele dossier isn't the only thing that was
Democrats
used.
For
incorrect.
a year and a half
incorrect.
claiming that Donald Trump was a Russian asset.
Okay, so hang on a sec here. Let's review here. So hacking of the election didn't happen.
Correct.
And the Obama administration didn't claim hacking happened. Okay?
And never said it didn't happen.
Hang on a sec. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
They removed it.
Hang on a sec.
They removed it.
Jeff, it doesn't. Jeff, hang on. It doesn't matter. You know what else the Obama administration never said? They never said that space aliens came down and hacked the election. You know what they didn't say? They didn't say zombies voted en masse. So, again, the omission of saying it doesn't mean they're saying it happened. No, that's ridiculous. That is dumb. So you're saying so the Obama administration thinks that zombies hacked the election? They didn't say they didn't.
They put this all together.
They didn't say they didn't.
Bill, they targeted Donald Trump.
Jeff, the argument that they say
the first 2 years of his administration with Russia collusion, Adam Schiff,
and he worked with them.
All that stuff.
And
none
the campaign
of it
worked
was
with them.
True. He didn't collude with Russia.
It was true. The Mueller report
Just because
proves
they
it.
talked to somebody doesn't mean that they colluded with Russia.
Not at the legal definition of collusion. You know this.
They knew that
this.
Russia couldn't influence the election via hacking and hid it.
Who claimed hacked? Who claimed it was hacked? Show me that. And that's the idea.
Did they go out there and say it wasn't? Did they go out there and say it wasn't?
Did they claim it
pulled that
was?
From
Did they claim it was? Hang on a sec. Did they claim it was? And here's the idea. Then if you're saying that they're hiding because they didn't say it wasn't, then you're saying that Joe Biden is claiming that the 2020 election was hacked because he never said it wasn't. Are we saying that Clinton admits that an election was hacked because he never said it wasn't?
They didn't give you the full picture,
Do they
Bill.
have to? Yes,
they
did.
Did not give you the full picture.
No, they did.
This was a deliberate
No.
effort to tank Donald Trump's first 2 years.
The people that aren't getting the full
and they
picture are
used
those
the
that aren't
spy
paying attention.
agencies to do it.
They're those
they
that aren't paying
used
attention.
our intelligence agencies to do it.
Oh, this is a pile of crap. Tulsi is hoping that nobody understands what's going on.
No.
This is ridiculous. This is crap.
Bill,
this is a
they ran
steeping pile of crap.
Russia, collusion. They spied on Donald Trump's campaign, and they're trying to get off on a technicality.
Because he was talking to the
Baloney.
Russians. That was proven. Paul Manafort admitted it. Admitted it.
Nobody was ever convicted on this.
Hang on a sec. That doesn't matter. Paul Manafort was convicted for being an unlicensed foreign influencer. I believe it was for Russia, but I don't know.
No, it was for Ukraine.
Okay, fine, Ukraine. But the issue is he came out and he said afterwards that, yes, he was talking to the Russians. Yes, they were sharing campaign information.
They were not colluding.
Again,
and the
hold
FBI,
on, please,
CIA
please.
knew
Hang on a sec.
this.
Hang on. I have, since Jump Street, admitted it does not rise to the level of criminal collusion. However, you're ignoring the other information that they did talk to each other. Because it doesn't rise to criminal collusion. I never said they didn't
talk to each other.
Hang on a sec. Every time I bring it up, you say, they didn't collude. I'm not saying they did.
Right.
I'm saying they talked to each other.
But
just
Bill,
like, hang on, give me a sec here. Okay. Just like when the Obama administration doesn't say the election was hacked, but says there was influence, and Tulsi comes out and says, oh, it's a scandal because they didn't say it was hacked. Duh. They never said. I've never said it was collusion. I've said they were working together. Same thing. Same thing.
Bill.
Exact same thing.
They utilized the American intelligence infrastructure against a political opponent.
I disagree.
That is what this comes down to.
No, not at all.
Yes.
He was working with the Russians.
Spied his campaign.
Because he was working with the Russians. He was talking to the Russians.
No.
They've proven that. No, Jeff, they've proven that.
Bill, it was
Jeff,
the Steele dossier that became the justification for all this.
Hang on a sec. Wait, hold on. Mueller report never uses the Steele dossier as justification for anything. Mueller report proves they were talking to the Russians, not collusion. Proves they were talking to the Russian. Again, Mueller report does not use the Steele dossier anywhere inside the report. Robert Mueller understood that it was largely BS and ignored it. Hang on.
But in the early 2017s, late 2016s, early 2017s, it was the Steele dossier.
Robert Mueller ignored it and
when
still showed it.
When was the Mueller report?
I don't know the timetable on top of it, but hang on a sec. But the issue is when you keep going back to the Steele dossier, we have an entire special counsel report that didn't use the Steele dossier that proves that Donald Trump was talking to the Russians. He's not a Russian asset. It
2019, Bill, was when the Mueller report was submitted.
I don't understand 2019. The point there. I don't
because we're talking about time, and time matters here. Late 2016, early 2017, they knew Russia didn't affect the election.
Didn't hack. Didn't say affect. Hack. Effect is different than hack.
Didn't
effect
hack.
is different
That's fine.
Than hack.
Didn't hack the election. They knew it. Did they ever say that? Did they ever run out and say?
Did they ever run out and say it was? That's important.
Why?
That's important.
Why would no?
Yes.
No.
That's
they pivoted
important.
because they didn't have the evidence. So then they go grab the Steele dossier.
You're reaching for straws. This is silly. This is silly.
Bill,
this is really silly.
They knew they had the evidence itself that Russia did not hack the election.
And
so
they
what
never
did they
said
do?
Russia hacked the election.
But did they ever say it didn't?
That doesn't matter.
Yes, it took.
No, it
you're the
doesn't.
head of the intelligence agency.
Okay.
Everybody wants to know if Russia affected this election, and you don't go out there and say we have clear evidence that they never actually affected the vote.
I will try to find, but I can't find the advocacy. The issue is you got to look for advocacy. I talk about it all the time. The affirmative has the burden of proof. Burden of proof is on the person making the claim. You have to show me the Obama administration made the affirmative claim before you denigrate them based on ignoring something. Show me they made the claim.
They hid that.
No,
then
show me they made the affirmative claim.
Dossier
Where
made
the hell is the affirmative
by
claim?
the Democrats to then go spy on Trump's campaign. It was the use of our intelligence agencies to go after a political opponent, and it is treasonous. All right. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Wake up, Denver. There's no better place to start your morning than IHOP, where the pancakes are fluffy, the coffee is hot, and the smiles are endless. Wednesday, August 27th, join Jeff and Bill as they broadcast their show live from IHOP at 1595 South Colorado Boulevard in Denver. You're officially invited to be part of the excitement. Come grab your favorite breakfast and watch the Jeff and Bill Show in action from 6 to 10 a.m. Don't forget to try the special Jeff and Bill breakfast. Pancakes, any style eggs, and crispy bacon, all for just $7.10. It's a deal as good as their hot takes. All they need is you. Bring your appetite, bring your friends, and kick off your day with great food and great conversation. See you Wednesday, August 27th at IHOP.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Phone lines are hot. Text messages are hot. What do you think of what Tulsi Gabbard tweeted Friday? She's got some strong language here. These documents detailing a treasonous conspiracy by officials at the highest level of the Obama White House to subvert the will of the American people and to try to usurp the president from fulfilling his mandate. Do you agree? Let's go to the phone lines. Matt, Denver. Good morning, Matt. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Gentlemen, easy now. Settle down now. Just relax. The greatest thing to know after all of that is that absolutely nothing, zero, will happen to any of the parties, the major players involved in this treasonous act. And so I set the frame there with, who cares? This is a beautiful distraction to the greater issue at hand. But I think, Billy, this is where you kind of want to stay on target, because what we're witnessing right now is the greatest rise and fall, implosion of a very popular, very powerful, maybe the greatest fan base of all time, President Trump. He's imploding as we speak right now, and it's getting more and more evident that there's no turning back.
Talk to me about the implosion. How do you see the implosion happening? Is it a result of the Epstein case? Because for me, I see him rebounding from things that would normally take most politicians down. Why are you now of the conclusion that he is imploding? Why is it this thing, whatever that thing is, that's going to bring him down? Help me understand that.
Well, he's a different, MAGA fans need to understand, this is a different person than 2016, than the one we saw get elected in 2024. This is a politician. There was a great stat I saw the other day, Billy and Jeff. In the first run, 70% of his donations came in the form of small dollar donors, mom and pop guys like me. This round, it was flipped. It was 70% big money, institutional lobby money. And so we know at that moment, and then we knew about the $250 million collectively from AIPAC, that we might have a captured president. And that's just maybe speculation once you start to put the math together. But then we see the decisions. And don't forget, he has aligned his cabinet with, a completely, let me say it like this, if they're not pro-Israel first, they certainly haven't chosen America as first. So we've lined our cabinet with those that don't have America first at top of mind. But Billy, then the decisions to do things like suppress the Epstein, to sign into law the Genius Act, to pass that disgraceful budget bill, to be threatening anybody like a Thomas Massey that dare oppose any of that thing. That's a different person than we saw in 2016 that the people fell in love with, that swore their allegiance to. And we know right now, I know maybe don't give it credit, Trump has already lost, meaning unless he was to wake up tomorrow and say, okay, here it is, here's the files, and I fired everybody who tricked me into suppressing it, he's lost 50% of his base.
Matt,
Here's
here's an opinion piece from the New York Times yesterday. Sorry, this Epstein stuff isn't going to hurt Trump. And they go, the Access Hollywood tape in 2016, impeachments in 2019 and 21, the specter of Governor Ron DeSantis in 2022, a conviction on felony crimes last year. In these and many other instances, reports of Mr. Trump's political demise have been greatly, perhaps even desperately, exaggerated. Your sponsor.
Well, the underlying crime in the Epstein case is the difference. That one cuts to the heart, to the soul, to the guts of almost every American.
So you think Donald Trump is a pedophile?
No, but if you're willing to protect or suppress information and actions that would lead to the incarceration or execution,
well,
to me, I don't know how to
what if some of
distinguish
it's not true, to the point over the weekend of the letter being what the Wall Street Journal published?
No. I don't need that letter to get where I'm at in my mind, that there's a lot of meat on the bone that you're choosing to throw in the trash, and we'd say we'd like to examine that. And then if it comes out that it literally was Jeffrey Epstein by himself with 10,000 children and he hogged all the girls for himself, if that's what... I will be on my knees begging forgiveness from everybody. But we know that's not true, which is why we're at where we're at today. You would never withhold information that leads you to nowhere, to nothingness. It's because it takes us to the heart of the system.
Because Donald Trump said, there's just stuff in there that just may not be true. And I think that's part of the issue. All right.
And Matt, I appreciate the phone call. I think one of the difficulties that MAGA is going to have is that part of MAGA's existence, not all, but part of the existence was based on these deep state conspiracies, one of which was a cabal of evil pedophiles running the government and or country and or the world. And so there's going to be a segment of MAGA that's going to have a difficulty with this. But unlike you, Matt, I don't think they're abandoning him.
Well, and to your point, in this Wall Street or New York Times opinion piece over the weekend, conspiracies are for those out of power.
Yes.
You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking Tulsi Gabbard, Barack Obama. All of that comes with her tweet on Friday about the Obama administration potentially hiding some of the information it knew that Russia didn't actually affect the election machines. Instead, created this Russia collusion narrative. And was that a form of treason? Let's go to the phone lines. Barney, Denver. Good morning, Barney. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, Bill. First off, to give Billy a little fairness, right after Trump was elected, he had asked me, what do you want Trump to do? I said, well, I want to know who's on the Epstein list. And he said it's not going to be released. So I'll give him credit there. And right now, the list is irrelevant. The money is still flowing. So that's what I'd like to see, but obviously that's not why I called about. All this stuff with Obama, look, no one's going to go to jail. And you get worked up because Bill says it's a joke and you say it's treason and whatever. And really look around, Jeff. No one's going to go down for this. All you can do is you can look at the situation of the Democratic Party and even Obama. Billy may disagree with me, but Obama is done. There is no more influence from Obama. And I think one of the worst things he did was when he came out and told the brothers, you vote for this woman or else. I mean, the guy is done. Even the Democrats, they're just... So my satisfaction with this, first off, you bring up Mueller, he was brain dead. And what about Peter Strzok and the girl that he was banging? And what about the other lawyer that was working on the Mueller report? It was all crap. And to even bring up the Mueller...
But the problem is, Barney, hang on, and we'll try to bring you over, is explain then to me the Durham report. That's what I want you to address when we come back.
We'll continue. It's a spicy Monday. Even the text messages are hot. Barney, stick around. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is 710 KNUS.